is Ronnie and John, and we wanted to come on today to do our what is this? This is our YouTube video where we're going to talk about anything we want to talk about.
Yeah, you can say that. Is it a rapid fire?
We can call it rapid fire. We were going to call it rapid fire. It's not Saturday, but hey, it's rapid fire any day, so we're just going to wing it. But what we did want to discuss today was race relations and some of the things that we've experienced being an interracial couple, and how it has affected us and has started a dialogue between us, because for the most part, John kind of lived in a bubble. So when these things started happening, I'm not sure, was I the first black woman that you ever dated?
Are you kind of insinuate I was a bubble boy?
Yeah, you were. You really were a bubble boy.
Bubble boy.
But I'm saying, was I the first black woman that you dated?
Well, I went to my prom with a girl in high school. That was
she black?
I think she was a little bit of everything.
Okay.
Yes, but she was much darker in complexion than myself.
Okay. All right. And how did your family feel about that?
That wasn't good, really, scene there.
No.
They definitely had issues. I remember when after I got my prom picture taken, we used to go down every weekend, take my grandmother down the shore because we had a place down the shore, and I had left my prom picture on the mantle, and I mean we were drastically different as far as complexion to begin with. She was a lot darker than me, which I'm basically the color of milk, but I remember leaving my prom picture on the mantle, and then basically when we came back, the picture was gone. My grandmother asked my grandfather where the picture was, and he didn't know. It mysteriously disappeared. So like I said, it was never, with my family at least, it was never probably a good subject.
So you think your grandfather did something to the picture?
Oh, I think he tore it up and burned it, personally.
So that brings us around to our relationship when we started dating. How did your family feel about it?
I think for the most part, I think my dad was good with it because I was in a bad relationship for 20 years with an ex. And I think he just really wanted me to be happy. My mom, on the other hand, she had serious problems with as far as Ronnie being black.
And the funny thing about it is, I thought when we first started talking, I thought it was going to be his father that was going to be the one that caused trouble. I never thought it would have been his mother. And the thing about his mom is, I'm just going to be honest about your mom.
Should I cover my ears?
She's very two-faced. She presents herself one way, but knowing that she doesn't feel that way. It's almost like she doesn't want you. She wants to stab you in the back and smile in your face, that type of thing. She doesn't, want to seem mean, but she actually is. And I tell John all the time, his mom is very passive aggressive, and she's said a lot of stuff, and has, a lot of stuff that John won't even tell me that she has said. I can only imagine. But I know when we first started dating, the first time I met his parents, John took his dad and went somewhere, and I thought, I'm just going to sit down and kind of have a heart-to-heart with his mom, because I wanted to know, what level was she on? What did she really feel about the relationship? I only know John had only told me bits and pieces, but I really wanted to feel this out, because our relationship was going somewhere, and I wanted to know how his family felt. And I remember sitting on the sofa, and I was just explaining to her, how I felt about her son. I was very much in love with him. I think we were engaged then. And how I felt about him, and I almost had tears in my eyes, because I was like really unloading my heart to this woman, and she basically said to me, well, that's all fine and good, but I just wish that you were a white woman. And I said, but he was in a relationship with a white woman, and it didn't work out. You would rather have your son in a bad relationship where he's constantly fighting. He could take a stroke or a heart attack any minute, the way they fought. You were okay with that just because she was white. But then I come along, and we think we're good for each other, and we have a excellent relationship. We don't fight, just splatters of, whatever disagreements, but nothing like down and dirty fighting where, maybe police need to be involved, or, everybody's walking away with a headache because you're all crazy, in this fighting situation. So that's what she said to me, that's all fine and good, but, basically, it'd be all right if you were white. And I don't know, at that moment, I know at that moment, I was like, I'm not going to try to be a part of his mom's life, but we go down there. We used to go down there. Pleasantries is what I like to call it. Very pleasant. But that's what gets me, knowing deep down inside, she couldn't stand my guts. Not because of the person that I am, not because of my personality, not because I'm mean, was mean to her, or anything regarding me as a person other than the fact that I was black. And she would make comments like, we were just talking about this the other day. Mm-hmm. She wouldn't call me black. If she said black, she was like, oh, and the people were black. Like to say black is a bad thing. And I so wanted to say, and I don't know, I might even said one time, you can say black. It's okay to call somebody black. But she was like, oh, well, that colored person. Seriously? Colored person? But if she wanted to call me black, oh, that was somebody over there, they were black. And I said, what's wrong with your mom? Why is she calling people in 2010, 2011, why is she saying black? Like people say, oh, that person has cancer. Like if you say it out loud, somehow the universe will accept it, and what are you going to do? She's just going to crumble up and, die like the Wicked Witch of the West or something. I don't know. But I found it very interesting that she's still number one called black people colored. And that she didn't want to say the word black out loud because, that was going to be the end all be all. But as far as that's John's side of the family. And on my side of the family, it's just me and my mom, basically. He hasn't met any of my other family other than really through Facebook. Yeah. Like, communicate through Facebook. Oh, John's so great or whatever. But nobody's met like face to face. And I'm okay with that because my family is really not that close anymore. I mean, when my great grandmother passed away, everybody went, scattered to the wind, and, that's just the way we are. So, yeah, that's just it. So I didn't really have a problem. My family didn't really have a problem. And I think if my dad was alive, he wouldn't have a problem either because, my dad, after my mom divorced him, he dated white women exclusively. I have a half brother and a sister. So, yeah, he didn't date any black women after my mom. So I don't think he'd have a problem with me being married to a white man. So my family, I think they would be. And even in my family now, I mean, obviously they know he's white. And nobody's ever said to me, what you doing with that white guy? So I think that's... I am white. He likes to think of himself as a light-skinned black dude. That's because, let me tell this story real quick. That's because we were helping a friend of mine move one day. And she had the truck, and we were taking her stuff out and putting it back and forth in the truck. And she had a neighbor, and the reason we were helping her move is because she was having a problem with her boyfriend, and she wanted to get her stuff out before he got back. So it was basically hightail it in there, get your shit out, and let's go, because she didn't want him to know she was moving. So she wanted to be out by the end of the day before he got whiff of it. There was a neighbor, obviously, that was spying on her and either told him or somehow I got back to one of my other friends, and they said, yeah, she's over here moving out. She's got 2 girls with her. She's got a girl with her, and she's got a friend with her, and some light-skinned black dude. And that was John. So I thought that he was a light-skinned black dude. So that's like the joke between us all the time. We'll say something and be like, well, you're going in that neighborhood, you'll be all right. You're just a light-skinned black dude. Nobody's going to bother you. So that kind of sticked, and that was like, it was 10 years ago?
Yeah, that was a pretty long time ago.
That was a pretty long time ago, but we still joke about it. He's the resident light-skinned black dude. But some of our other experiences, why don't you tell the time that you went to this bar to pick up a pizza? one
Oh,
night. That
yeah.
was interesting. This is gonna be good.
So I guess me and Ronnie got this bad habit of eating late at night. So we decided that, well, she always says that I'm the one that started her eating pizza late at night because I was always a pizza guy.
He is.
But we were looking for a place. I guess it was probably around 11, 12 o'clock at night. We were looking for a place to get a pizza. So I had mentioned, because she said that she liked, I think they're red pizzas. They're the ones with sauce with no cheese.
The cheese is on the bottom at that particular one.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
I thought that was a regular red pizza.
No, they made it's, what's the name of the place, like Santino's or something? I forget. It's something with an S. They make these pizzas that are square. So what do they call the square pizzas? They're
And they're Sicilian, aren't they?
Sicilian, right?
Yeah.
They make they exclusively make Sicilian pizzas, but they put the cheese on the button. So the cheese goes on the dough, and then they put the tomato on top and maybe sprinkle some herbs or whatever. Best pizza ever. So yeah, go ahead. That's how they make their pizza.
Continue on.
Making me hungry. It's good pizza.
So we placed an order, and Ronnie stayed behind. She stayed at the house with the dogs. So I went up to get the pizza, and the woman there, she said they were running a little late, but they'd have it in about 10 or 15 minutes. So I decided I'd go into the bar. So I went into the bar and have a couple drinks while I was waiting for the pizza. So I'm in the bar, and there were a whole lot of people in there. I would say there was probably maybe like about 12, 16 people. It wasn't like it was overly crowded. So I went to the bar, and then across on the opposite side of the bar where I was sitting with two guys that they were with, I guess. And the two young girls, basically, the one girl, and you could tell that they were really intoxicated, she started telling jokes. So I wasn't really paying much attention. But she actually made it a point to call it to my attention and yell across the bar, "Hey, I got a funny joke for you." So she basically started on about, and I vaguely remember it because it was pretty long ago as far as what the exact details, but she started on about this joke about a black pilot. And it was a racially motivated joke, to get a laugh. Now, you have to picture the neighborhood that I'm in. The neighborhood I'm in is probably 80, 90% white. So basically, at that point, she's not really concerned about offending anyone. So she tells the joke, and she gets to the punchline, and after she gets to the punchline, she looks across at me, and she's like, "Get it, get it?" And I looked back at her. I said, "I get it." I said, "But I don't think it's funny." And she basically proceeded to keep digging and ask me why I didn't think it was funny. And I said to her, "Well, first of all," I said, "my wife's black." At that point, you could hear a pin drop in the bar. You think that's funny?
You know what? Because I love stuff like that. Because people expect, they look at John and they think he's probably the most racist person in the world, like a skinhead.
What, I got a swastika attached on my head?
No, but people look at you. They look at like your tattoos. They look at you, maybe the way you're dressed. You got this little beard thing rolling down, and I think that people think that's the last person you would think that would be with a black chick.
Well, there's a lot of bikers with black chicks that look like me.
I understand that, but somebody interrupting us. But I think and this is what we always talk about. People always look at someone and think that they can tell the type of person they are or tell their life story, and that's not it. And I think because he mentioned his neighborhood, I don't know if another black person was even in his neighborhood. And the thing about it is, you walk one block over, and that part was just all integrated, but his part he lived in, no black people. But anyway, continue.
So at that point, basically, when I said it, like I said, you could hear a pin drop in the bar, and I wasn't smiling when I said it. I was looking dead straight in her face across from the bar. At that point, basically, the bartender walked over to her because they were pretty intoxicated, the girls. I don't think their boyfriends or whoever they were with was as bad as they are, but the two women were pretty intoxicated. He basically told them that they were going to have to get up and leave the bar. At that point, they called my number for the pizza, so I had got up and picked up the pizza. When I went out the door, one of the guys who was with him, he came out and basically told me, he basically told me he didn't want any trouble, and he apologized for what they were saying. But like I said, to me, the whole and we always talk about words and stuff. How Ronnie says like words don't control people, which they shouldn't. I mean, I wasn't infuriated to the point where I was going to, go out and try to kill somebody, but I didn't like the idea at the same point, what she was basically doing, because growing up in the Northeast, to be honest with you, where I come from, I really never mattered. Like, I didn't really see the whole race thing in my vision basically growing up. But I noticed after I met Ronnie, and me and her started dating and eventually got married, it came out even stronger. It was almost like looking through a black person's eyes with your eyes, to be able to be that sensitive to see, different triggers and stuff like that would set people off. But, I can understand, and I would be the first one to tell you that you shouldn't let words take you to that point, But again, that's one of them things where you don't realize it if you're not a black person when you're in that type of environment, unless you're either a black person or you're in a relationship with a black person, to be able to see through their eyes what they go through on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm. And we always, we always talk about that, because that's why I joke with him and say he lived in a bubble, because he didn't realize it. I think growing up, he heard maybe certain family members say derogatory things, and he didn't appreciate it then. But like, you're a kid, what are you going to say? But if you don't really have black friends or around a lot of black people, you don't see that until you step outside that bubble. And then he's dating me and he's seeing what I go through, and it's like an eye opener, and it's like, wow, there's this other side of life that I really wasn't even aware of. And what I appreciate about John is, he's definitely my champion. If someone was going to come off on the wrong foot or say something, he's right there. And that brings up the thing about calling someone the N-word. I always said to him, a lot of people don't agree with me. You can agree or not agree. I really don't care. This is just how I feel about it. The N-word is the N-word. I think a lot of people give it a lot of weight. I think people have always given it that way. Don't, misunderstand me. I understand where it came from. But I think it's about time to change how you react to it. Because I always explain to John, because John said, if somebody calls you the N-word, I'm laying them flat. And I said, why? And he said, because I don't appreciate that and it's disrespectful. I said, but if I don't consider it that way, see, this is how I see it. If a white person, if a white person calls me the N-word, they're looking for a specific response from me, because they know the weight that word carries. Now, if I take the weight that word carries away from them, and let's say I just bust out laughing in their face, you calling me the N-word, now you're not getting the response from me that you thought you were going to get. So now that totally negates that word as far as I'm concerned, and probably on their end too, because then they're like, well, N-word, 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 and what? If I'm laughing, you're not getting to me. So you're not getting the response from me that you thought you were going to get. So that takes the power away from that word. That's how I look at it. I don't feel that any black person should be called that word, but let's be real. It happens. But I do think if you can only control your thoughts and your behavior and how you respond to things. And that's how I respond to it. So, you may think I'm crazy, but I know you crazy for even trying to dare call me that word. So I'm going to take the power away from you. I own the word. I own the power and how I respond to it. So John, to this day, he doesn't understand that. But I try to explain to him that's just the way I am. I'm not going to let you have control over me and take me out of my character for just a lousy word. I understand where it comes from, but think about changing how you react if you've ever been called that word. Because I have. I was walking down. I used to work for Philadelphia University, and I remember I had just got some braids, and I was thinking I was all cute. And I was walking down. This was maybe, I don't know, I'm not sure how long ago this was. But anyway, I was walking down the street. I just parked, and I was going across to the building that I worked in. And this car went zooming by, and this guy screamed out, and he was white. He screamed out, hey there, pretty nigger. And I remember I just stopped in my tracks. And I'm like, I know this mofo didn't just call me a nigger and then drive off. And had the nerve to preface it with pretty. I'm like, so what was I supposed to do? I was supposed to be like, hey, baby, stop for a minute. He called me pretty. Really, I don't even know what even possessed them to say that or do that. But I'm like, people feel emboldened when they're in cars, when they're, behind a computer to say a bunch of shit, and it just doesn't really make sense at the end of the day. But I mean, that's not the only time I've been called that word. I've worked in IT basically all my life, and not only, I had a couple of strikes against me. Not only was I black, but I was a woman. So when I go in and I sit down at the table at these meetings and, we're trying to get things done, they're not listening to what I'm saying. They don't want to listen to what I say. They don't think I know what I'm talking about until I open up my mouth. And then they realize I'm on their same level. So do I feel that they think they have to give me some sort of respect? Maybe they don't think so, but I'm going to demand it, because now you're not just, looking at some black woman sitting there that doesn't deserve to be there, because I'm on your same level, and in some cases even higher. So, and that's not tooting my own horn, but that's just the way it was. We would definitely hit a plateau. Most of the time you can't go any further. And all the times it wasn't just white people holding you down. There's a lot of black women that I worked for, whatever, that I thought, oh, not that I didn't deserve it, but hey, help a sister out. No, it's that crab mentality. It's pull you right back down in the basket. If I've gotten this high, I don't want you up here with me, because then they're going to feel I don't deserve it. So I'm just going to pull you right back down. So, I mean, there's a lot of psychosis with all of that stuff, but yeah, we just we deal with it on our own. Oh, tell them about the guy here. This is really a good story. Tell them about the plumber that came into the house. I like this story. So me and John like to do things like this, and I'll explain to you after he tells you the story. But go ahead, tell him the plumber story.
Okay, well, first,
this is back when we was living at his house.
First, I just want to go back to something you were saying.
Mm-hmm.
When you were basically saying lay him out, I smiled. I was actually smiling at what you were saying, but when you said lay him out, kind of cute, because you're so cute when you talk violence.
He always does that. John thinks that anything I say, like kicking somebody's ass or, telling somebody off or whatever, he thinks that's cute. He doesn't recognize that I have a serious temper. He thinks it's cute. And I try to tell him all the time, don't push my buttons. Stop poking the bear. But he thinks it's cute, and I'm like, it's not cute. Your wife knows how to fight.
Right.
And take care of herself.
Kind of cute, though.
All right,
Okay.
let's tell the
I just
story.
want to explain why I was smiling when you said that.
Whatever. Just
Okay.
tell the plumbing story, please.
So we were basically getting ready to sell the house where we lived in the Northeast, because we were going to move down at Ronnie's house, which actually I was glad we did, because my business thrives down here, which in the Northeast it wouldn't have done. To have some remodeling done in the bathroom, and I needed basically a new shower stall, a floor, and some other plumbing stuff done. So I called a bunch of people, and like contractors are probably the hardest people to get a hold of and to get them out, especially during their busy season. But I went through one of the local Northeast, I think it was the Northeast Times, one of the local papers up there, and I actually found a plumber that responded. So the plumber responded. He set up a date with me to come out. So again, he came to the house, and like I said, with the neighborhood basically is a white neighborhood for the most part. He comes in the door, and the first thing he says was basically, he's like, oh man, he says, I apologize. He says, I was down in North Philly. Now, just to give you some emphasis with North Philly is probably I would say more black than anything, the people that live down there.
North Philly is probably 99% black.
Right.
Where he lives, 99% white. So that's the difference. There's your skew, the difference.
Right. So him coming into the house, basically, I guess he felt emboldened to tell me a story as far as where he was at. And he said, I apologize. Now, he could have went down this road a couple different ways. He could have said, hey, I apologize, man. I had a customer. She just went on and on and on, and I couldn't get out of there. That was the one road he could have went down. And the other road he could have went down is what he said to me. He basically said to me, he said, hey man, he says, I'm sorry. He said, it was a black family that he was at. And he proceeded to go on and basically say, how did he phrase it? He says, well, and I'll just blank it out, but he said, the N-bomb, he said, the way those people are. So I basically looked at him, and basically I just kept on going, because again, and see, this is where I guess things get kind of like foggy sometimes. When he said it, I guess he was looking for a response from me is, oh, my wife's black. Me personally, this is me. My wife is my wife. When I met my wife, I love my wife for the way she is. I love everything about her. Although she does get a little bit of pain in the ass sometimes, but that's a little bit different of a story.
Hey, that goes both ways, baby. Right back at you.
But I love everything about my wife, and I don't consider by no means my wife that word. So see, at this point, I'm not going to put anything into what he just said. I don't feel like I have to acknowledge that my wife's black because what he said. So he goes upstairs and he continues to give me the estimate, and he said it again. So at that time, I told him, I said, I wanted to see if he could patch a ceiling that I had, because he did floor, tile work, that stuff, along with the plumbing stuff. So he goes to go in the bedroom, and Ronnie's laying on the bed watching TV.
So this is what I do, because he comes up the steps, and I can hear him talking. I hear the conversation. And I never did John say, you didn't tell him your wife was black, because this guy turned the color of paper, like this paper. This is what the color that he turned. I mean, all the color drained out of him.
Whiter than me?
Yeah. When he walked up the steps, because he's still dropping the N-bomb, walking up the steps or whatever. And John gets him, like, he stands right in front of the door. And I heard what he said. So I'm standing there, and I was like sitting on the bed, and I'm like, hey, how you doing? Like that. And he was like, oh, how you doing or whatever. And then John proceeds to tell me, like, after they went back downstairs or whatever, that he said, hey man, why didn't you tell me, your wife was black or whatever? And what was your response?
So when he went downstairs, because I could see the expression on his face when he went into the bedroom.
He probably thought his ass was about to get kicked.
So when we went downstairs, he said to me, just what Ronnie said. He said, hey man, he says, why don't you tell me your wife was black? So at this point of the story, I'm basically going to tell you right now, I apologize for what I'm going to say, but I'm going to say it just the way it was said to keep it real. And basically, it adds a little bit of humor to the story. But it does have a very positive thing. So at this point, when he said that to me, I said, well, see, we're going to have a problem. Because it's one thing if you're going to say that word. I said, it's another thing if you're going to refer to my wife as a nigger. I told him, if you're referring to my wife with that word, I said, I'm going to break my foot off in your ass. I said, because that's the way it is. And basically at that point, he started to shake. And he said, no problem. I didn't mean no harm or anything like that. But he did, because basically that word, he's kind of fixated in his head that every black person is connected to that word, which they aren't, and that, to me, I was all ready to get into, probably something I was going to be sorry for in the morning, but I was ready to do it, because at that point, like I said, it's a respect factor with me. It's just like me and Ronnie were talking about, men and women, and if you have male friends, if they say things that can kind of trigger your significant other, that's a respect thing. If you got another guy who's talking about your wife or your girlfriend and he's saying sexual things, that can be a trigger. And it's a respect factor at the end of the day. You have to respect everyone as individuals. When you go past that line, then there's a price to be paid. And basically the price to be paid, sometimes you will have somebody's foot broke off in your ass. That's just the way it is.
And the thing, and that goes back to, he looked at John, he came in the house, he thought, oh, I can just say anything I want to. And that actually goes to another point. In today's society, when are people going to realize that not everybody you see, not every white person you see that may look like John is prejudiced or a racist or is okay, even if he wasn't married to a black woman, is okay with you using that kind of language or talking that way. Sometimes, you know, it might just be like, hey, I don't appreciate you dropping the N-bomb around me. You know, it's okay to say that. But don't always look at somebody and think that it's okay to have that kind of conversation with them, because you don't know what's going on in their life. They could have, you know, a black wife. They could have, John could be, you know, biracial. You know, kids could be black. It's a lot of stuff that goes with that. But people just look at people and take them face value and think that it's okay to have those conversations. And it's not. And like John said, sometimes you're going to pick the wrong person and you're going to get a foot broke off in your ass. It's just that simple. But people have to realize before they speak, you know, and I think that's just an interesting point, or a little interesting tidbit on life, that people just think that those type of things are still okay to do and not do it. So from that point on, John and I have fun all the time when we go out, because we'll be somewhere and we'll be in line at a supermarket or whatever, and people always say, like, I'll be standing, maybe he might be behind the cart, I'll be in front of the cart, and you know, I start putting stuff up on there, and they never think we're together. We always get, is this separate? Are you two together? We get that a lot. We get that awful lot. Yeah, they never think that we're together, and I'm like, why not? You know, what is the problem? You see, there are times where we're together this close in the supermarket or Target or whatever, and they feel they still have to say, are you two together? I don't know. I mean, what do you think? We're both putting stuff out of the same cart. Would we be grabbing stuff out of the same cart if we weren't together? We deal with that all the time. But it's funny because what we do like to do is sometimes pretend we're not together and then watch their reactions when they realize that we are together. So I'm like, well, you know what? I might as well have some fun with this, because people want to be ignorant. Fine, I can be ignorant too. So we do play around with that a lot. You know, we'll go out and we'll be like walking or something, and he may say something like, he may say something.
What did it say?
Oh, you say something
breaking
like,
foot off some people's ass?
like we'll pretend maybe we're not together, and you'll be like, hey there, sweet thing, or something like that, maybe.
Oh yeah, we did that in the, that was in a Petco, that one day when you were